What's going on, guys? Oliver Anastasio here with FlytPath.com. Now, Ulanzi recently sent me this right here, a brand new tripod that they're releasing. This is called the Coleman F38, and I was excited to test this one out because, if you guys know, this has been my go-to tripod here. A lot of people are familiar with this one, the Peak design. This is the carbon fiber one. Really good tripod, and I've been using this thing since it came out. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Ulanzi, I've actually talked about them a bunch on this channel. They do a lot of accessories for a lot of your camera gear, action camera gear, and if you guys haven't seen, I'll leave a bunch of links down below of other accessories. So they aren't new to the space, but this tripod is a new one. So in this video, let's go through those things that are different and similar of the Ulanzi carbon fiber, the F38 versus the carbon fiber Peak design. Now here is the box, and what was nice is that very similar to the Peak one, they provide you a little bag to hold your tripod in. This is the Peak one, and then this is the one that comes with the F38 tripod. Right off the bat, first thing we gotta talk about, price of these two tripods. The Peak design carbon fiber comes in at $649, which is definitely not a cheap tripod. The Ulanzi tripod comes in $369. F38 is a little bit taller than the Peak one. So as you can see here, just height-wise, it is probably about an inch taller than the Peak design tripod. Now, as far as height goes, the Ulanzi does have the Peak design beat by just a couple inches when you extend out the head. When the head's not extended out, they're about the same as far as the height goes with these two tripods. Now, as far as circumference around these two, as you can tell, the design is different. The Ulanzi one goes with the more traditional type of tube design. The circumference is a little bit smaller on the Ulanzi, so if you're grabbing and going, this might be a little bit easier to grab and go. Now, one thing right off the bat that you do notice is the Ulanzi is much lighter than the Peak design. First, we'll put the Peak design on this scale, and we come out to 2 pounds, 15 ounces. We're at 1332 grams. Ulanzi, the F38, let's go in 1125 grams. 2 pounds, 7 ounces. So if you're using this thing on a smooth surface, you're gonna want to use the rubber ones right there, which they already have on them. The Peak design, same thing, have the rubber ones built in. But if you wanted to switch them out, because if you're taking photos or video in something like grass and you want to have this thing kind of dig in to the ground a little bit more, so for a little bit more stability, you can switch these out with these little ones right here, and all you have to do is unscrew them on the bottom and then screw in these new ones. So they don't have that on the Peak design one. You actually have to use a tool to unscrew those. So just something to note because it did come in the box. When I opened up the tripods, the one thing I did notice is there's an extra step in the Ulanzi one. And by step, not means step as like you have to do more things, but an extra angle. So right now, this is the standard one when you open it up. And if you go to the next one down, these are the two different heights or levels of the tripod legs you can go. So you're standing straight up or this really wide base. Middle ground here. So you're able to go this level, now level 2. They have an extra step or an extra level here on the Ulanzi compared to the Peak one. Peak only has 2. The Ulanzi does have the 3 different heights. Now, as far as adjusting the height on the Peak design one, you're gonna use this knob, which allows you to loosen it up so you can go up and down here. And on the Ulanzi, you're using this lever. So you undo the lever, lift it up, and then once you find your height, you just press that lever down. Now, one of the big drawbacks a lot of people have talked about on the Peak design one is the head. Lock it in just like that. And now you're able to, of course, adjust the head position with this swivel mount right there. Because of these slots right here, you're not able to go at any angle. You have to actually move the camera at a specific angle for it to drop into vertical mode. And when you want to loosen up the ball joint, you just have to pull this lever here. And now you have free range as far as your ball joint. But then when you want to go vertical, you are able to go vertical this way as well as vertical this way. So just something to think about, that when you're using a Peak design one, sometimes you are limited on the angles. You have to make some adjustments, whether it's going to be taking the camera out and switching it. Definitely a big plus for Ulanzi, not having to think about which position the camera is in order for you to make the vertical work. Like I mentioned, this does have the quick release, so all you have to do is press that in and then slide this out. And the Falcon plate here is what they're using. And if you guys are familiar with Ulanzi, or if you're not, they have a bunch of other accessories like camera mounts, quick release plates and mounting systems that you could put on other tripods, other gimbals. I actually have one on my gimbal, as well as if you have something like this, which is the one where you hook up to your backpack, to your strap on your backpack. So if you wanted to go from your tripod to your backpack, you can just easily swap that out here. And then also, I have a Falcon plate on my gimbal. So if I wanted to go from tripod over here to gimbal, I just have to do that, like so. And now I'm able to easily go from one device to the other, or one tripod to my gimbal. And then if I wanted to go onto the road, I can use the existing Falcon quick release to now throw this onto my backpack. Both of these on the very bottom have these hooks, and these hooks are really good because if you're out there and it's a windy day, or actually anytime you use your tripod, you always want to hook some weight down here so that if the wind is pushing this over, or if you're shooting in water, you just want to have weight pulling down on your tripod. The one thing that's different with the Peak Design one is that you could pop this out, and they actually have a built-in mobile phone holder. You can actually use this mobile phone holder right there. On the Ulanzi one, instead of a mobile phone, what they have is a built-in tool. So if you're ever used to using tripods, sometimes your legs get a little bit loose. Sometimes you want to switch these out here. Nice that they have the tool built into it, that you just can access this right here at the very bottom. Now Peak does have their own tool system, which is a little mounting bracket that holds your wrenches here. However, the wrenches don't stick in well onto the actual bracket, because that's the reason why you see this. I have this gaff tape here holding it, and it's all nasty now, but I have to gaff tape the tool in there, because if the tool just sits inside of that holder, it actually slips out all the time. Another difference I saw between these two tripods, and I like the one that's on the Ulanzi, is they added in that bubble leveler on the outside. Here on the Peak one, we do have that leveler, which is here on top. But the thing I noticed is that every time I would use it, you would have to actually level it while it's off, or the camera's off the tripod, because once you put the camera on the tripod, it covers the leveler. So you're gonna need to do that before you put the camera on, which I thought was interesting. Here on the Ulanzi one, it is on the outside. So once you put your camera onto your tripod, lock that in place, and now you have the level on the outside right here on the back. Makes it super simple for you to adjust your tripod, make sure it is nice and level, and then lock that down. Another difference I saw between these two as far as the ball heads go is that when you have your camera on the Peak Design and you have this thing mounted here, and if you wanted to lock in your camera, so right now I'm locking it in by twisting this, the camera is locked in place, which means you can't swivel, you can't move it. So if you wanted to make an adjustment just on the horizon level, you actually still have to unlock the whole ball joint, which means now you can't just swivel, or you can swivel it this way, but you're also tilting it this way. So there is no separate adjustment for you to just change the position. Lock that in, and then of course I can adjust my ball head. So once I get my ball head to, or ball joint, to an angle I like, if I want to lock that in place, I'm able to do that. And then they have this secondary one where I can loosen it, and then I can still turn the camera left to right, and your ball joint is still leveled. So whatever you set it at, that's still leveled, but I can now adjust this left to right. Now when it comes to bottom mounting your tripod, you are able to do that on both tripods. This is the Peak one. I just basically took this out and then dropped it on here on the bottom. So both cameras, or both tripods, are able to do that. So if you are shooting with this and you want that lowest possible shot while the tripod's up, mount your camera here on the bottom. You can do that on both of these tripods. Now, the one thing that's interesting with both these tripods is that even though they're both carbon fiber, the build quality is really, really good with the Ulanzi one, even though it's lighter, which is interesting because this one right here, when you put them next to each other, feels like there's a lot more, I would say, plastic pieces, hardened plastic pieces on the Peak Design one, where the Ulanzi one feels a lot more, I believe it's like more aluminum. It just feels really solid. So build quality wise, I feel like there's, I mean, surprisingly, the build quality is really good on both, but you know, you just have a lot more aluminum metal pieces here, which I guess just feels a little bit better than some of the plastic pieces on the Peak Design. So when it comes to opening and closing the tripods, they feel pretty on par. They're about the same. They're both using, like I said, that same concept as far as these levers go versus the one where you twist them. This one right here, which they're calling the 0 quarter, basically this gives you a 1/4-20 at the very top. So if you have other ball heads you want to use, maybe you have a video ball head from Ulanzi or any other company, because it's just a standard 1/4-20. My initial overall first impressions, as you guys could probably tell from this video, are really good from Ulanzi with this new carbon fiber tripod. The build quality is solid. It feels really good in the hands, and that's actually a big deal. The weight is really light compared to even the Peak one. I thought the Peak one was pretty good. You know, when I was using it, you could definitely feel a little bit heavy out there when it's hooked up to your backpack and you have a bag full of gear. Anytime you can save weight without sacrificing stability, I think is such a huge key. And I think Ulanzi has that with this new tripod. And then of course, the price, holy cow. Such a big difference, $649 for the Peak Design carbon fiber. They do have a more affordable one, which is the non-carbon fiber one. But if we're going carbon fiber to carbon fiber, this one is at $369. A lot of things that they're doing here, they pretty much probably looked at this tripod and tried to fix all those things with this one. Hope you guys got some value from this video, and if you did, a big like would be much appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Ultra Anastasio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.